Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Metal video. In this video we are going to take a look at the physical King Cold unit, and we're going to see just how good he is in Dbz Dokkan Metal after his recent Extreme Z Awakening as part of his Super Strike event revamp. So this is the physical Dignity of a Clan King Cold. And yeah, he's going to be tried out in Esbr. He's got a pretty nice kit, to be honest with you, for Esbr. He debuffs the enemy by 25% and, well, 25% attack and 50% defense. And this can be really handy in Esbr, as attack reduction is one of the best ways to massively reduce some of the big attack stats that multiple enemies can fire at you at once. So that kind of mitigation is really helpful and does pair up really nicely, and you'll see it come into evidence pretty well, basically. By the way, it's just very cool how well the physical Mecha Freezer tanked that turn. Very, very impressive. So yeah, King Cold, very, very, very cool unit. Lots of different kind of synergy that he can provide to a team, and a lot of different toolkits that he can provide to be evident as well, to be quite relative. Obviously, from the actual performance point of view, I think the only thing you might see is his stats will be a little bit low, but I do think he has some really nice toolkits to offer, and he can really fill in your team. I'm going to be keeping him second slot, but ideally I would probably run him in the third slot as a floater and just allow him to spread his, support buff when he can and his debuffing of the enemy when he can. Here we've obviously got a couple items active, so very difficult to measure how well he tanks or anything like that here, but a decent attack stat, which is always good, and the debuffing of the enemy is pretty good as well. You can also see he's got an AoE seal, which is also coming into play, and he's debuffing the enemy with his passive as well. So there's a lot of good mechanics that have come into here. The AoE seal is one of them. It's very, very good and can really help out your run. So yeah, I think physical King Cold is a pretty solid unit from that perspective. If I can think about him as a unit, I think overall one nice thing, especially in the Wicked Bloodlines ESBR, is that you're facing Saiyans and Hybrid Saiyans a lot. So his sealing effect comes into play quite substantially. It's only a medium chance of sealing their super attacks, but it is 30%, and the sealer is pretty good. Obviously stunning would be more suitable as it stops kind of like all damage, but yeah, generally speaking, I think for me, really nice in terms of his debuffing and his sealing. Those two mechanics of his passive are very, very good for ESBR and SBR. Then in terms of his overall direct stats, like his overall performance, one thing that's really, really nice is like his support passive. His support passive is also pretty good. Can obviously assist the rotation. It is only there when it is 50% HP or more, which is obviously some kind of a hindrance. Although 50% isn't a terrible level of HP to request of a unit, it is obviously not as maybe good a threshold as like the 40% of AGL Golden Freezer or things like that. Obviously it is somewhat limiting to a certain extent, because 50% is still quite a lot of health to have in a game mode that is relatively hard. ESBR and SBR is quite difficult. It's not like the easiest game mode in the world, so it is definitely something that you can obviously work around. So for me, definitely something that I think is pretty good is that debuffing. But yeah, for me, 100% I do think as a unit that he's got a really good kit for this kind of game mode. At least I think he's incredibly solid when it comes to this type of game mode. So yeah, for me overall, honestly quite happy. At the same time, you know, there are things that could be better, but it's not too bad. I think maybe his raw stats could be a little bit higher. Obviously, one thing about him is he's definitely much better in the second slot, and it seems like we always tend to get a lot of these like second slot, third slot based units. Obviously, we're putting him on the main rotation, but I do genuinely believe that he is best on the second or third slot. Floating is probably where I would use him ideally. I think there's a lot of strong Wicked Bloodlines units that do better than him in that continual second slot. I do think lineups nowadays are a lot more flexible than they used to be. I don't think there's designated second or third or fourth slot units that you have to have. I do think there are, like nowadays especially, units that kind of exist in this in-between realm. And I think that is apparent here with this unit. I think he's clearly designed to kind of function on a multi-level. He definitely is designed to work on multiple different levels, in the second slot, in the third slot, floating, being kind of that buffing, debuffing kind of support-based unit. I think that all is super helpful. I just think that a lot of people like clearly defined units more so than anything, and I think for the most part that you don't get that with necessarily you don't get that with this unit. You're not getting, strictly speaking, a clearly defined slot 1 unit. You're just kind of getting a unit that's great in a number of different positions. So that is obviously something that I think most people will have to take cognizance of. I do think at the end of the day he still is fantastic and still is highly usable on any team that you want to run him on. So if you are looking for someone to fill out your team, 100% he is really good to go on that front, and he's going to be really impressive for you, I think. At least for me, I think he's got a nice meshing with the rest of the team. The only real shame is his link set. He doesn't really have the world's greatest link set. Obviously, if you really want to kind of get down to brass tacks, I think he is a little bit limited because of the fact that he's a super strike unit. Super strike units have super strike, they have bombardment. These links aren't necessarily the best links in the world, and they can somewhat limit the unit from that perspective. At least for me, I think they can somewhat limit the unit. It is always difficult to link up, especially when you don't have some of the stronger link sets for your category, your main categories, which in this area is obviously Wicked Bloodlines. One thing he does have is he has Strong's Clan in Space, which is very good. Strong's Clan in Space is a great link set. Obviously he needs it for the Wicked Bloodlines team. He does have it, and it just helps out a whole bunch. So yeah, super duper awesome, and he's doing a great job. I think if you are interested in getting him, probably get him if you have a couple SBRs that he's on to clear. I think there's definitely like quite a few SBR where I think he's usable and is super duper helpful. If you look, for example, at his categories, he can help you with Wicked Bloodlines, Terrifying Conquerors, Target Goku, all those more than fine. Extreme Physical as well, Extreme Physical stages he'll also be really, really good on. Extreme Class as well, considering the strength of the other teams that he's on. Also, definitely the debuffing is a big factor, and you 100% can really get usability out of it. So I highly suggest that you do this and use this guy as best you can. I think he's a really, really good unit, and I think you are going to really enjoy using him and getting the most out of him. With that being said, I think, I'm really happy with his overall performance. There's not too much more really to explain. We've seen him tank with items, without items. Obviously, without items, generally speaking, is after we've done debuffing. One really thing, or one good thing that kind of plays in with this team, or the Wicked Bloodlines team I should say, is they carry a lot of debuffing. Between Mecha Freezer, who's also a free-to-play unit, between King Cold, between the Strength Cooler, between all of these units there actually is quite a large degree of debuffing, and this does really play into you know, the SBR, ESBR kind of modicum. You know, it is, when you've got so much debuffing, a really great strategy, because by the time you get to the third turn or so, the units are generally multiple times over debuffed, and this is very good. It can 100% really reduce the amount of damage that the units are putting out, and it does make things a little bit, you know, smoother in terms of running. Less, you know, items, less everything, and I think overall that is pretty good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to see from him. I don't think there's anything else realistically that you need in terms of his, like, reviewing him. So we're going to leave it at that. We've seen him tank with no items, we've seen him tank with items, we've seen him do quite a bit. So yeah, that's going to be it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, or otherwise I will see you guys next time. So until then, take care, stay safe, and as always, see you guys in the next one. Bye.